Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here with another important tropical weather outlook and discussion for Saturday, August the 24th, 2024. So here's a look at the latest GOES 16 True Color Visible satellite imagery provided by Dr. Levi Cowan at tropicaltidbits.com. There will be a link in the description below this video. And as we can see right now, we do have a pretty intense tropical wave coming off of Africa. There is now some signal that this could actually end up developing once it gets over here into near the Caribbean and just to the east of it, and then eventually maybe some development over here over the southwestern Atlantic. And I'm not joking when I say there is a bit of a signal in today's video. So we're really going to have to watch this tropical wave now as it emerges off of Africa. So now with that being said, let's take a look at your tropical weather forecast on what these tropical waves could end up doing once they move off of Africa. So first of all, we're looking at the GFS model here at 850 millibars. So that's about 5,000 feet above the surface. And what we're looking at here too is three different plots. So these color shading areas like yellow, oranges, and reds indicate how much spin there is in the atmosphere. So how much is the atmosphere rotating around a common center? And then when you see these black lines, this is your low-level geopotential height. So basically a topographical map of the atmosphere. So think of this as a big sprawling ridge of high pressure, basically an obstacle where these systems cannot run into because the ridge is too dominant. And then these wind barbs right down here indicate which way the wind is coming from and how strong it is. So just a little side note, when you have two long barbs, that is winds of 20 knots. And when you have a half of a barb, like what I'm about to draw up here, that is 15 knots. So hopefully you all understand that really well. So what we have here is a strong Bermuda Azores high over much of the Atlantic. You can see it here highlighted on the GFS model, winds coming in out of the easterly direction off of Africa. That's pretty much what we need for tropical wave development, and not much going on out there right now. But there are a couple of areas to kind of monitor, and as we look at those areas, the first area that we're going to have to watch is this broad tropical wave over here. This is very broad in nature, not very sharp at all, but you just don't want to take your eyes off of any of these features, because as they move into the Gulf of Mexico, we can see as that wave kind of runs into this little vortex over the Gulf, you can see maybe a little bit of development, maybe into a tropical depression or two, and that's why I have that area highlighted in my Twitter feed. I'll have another outlook this evening on that system, but there is still some signals here that there may be some development, nothing too significant at the very moment, but with how warm the Gulf waters are, you just cannot take your eyes off of the Gulf at all. The next 5 days otherwise looks pretty good in the tropics. And then, of course, the GFS is saying no to the dress. In other words, there's just nothing out there on the GFS model to be concerned about. However, though, there are previous model runs like the 12Z run showing maybe a developing tropical storm here, something coming off of Africa here, maybe something else right here, and then another big tropical wave coming off of Africa at that given time. And if we move this forward, that could become a formidable hurricane moving into Mexico with another system that develops. So right now the GFS is going back and forth, but on an overall standpoint average, we are starting to see signs that this area could awaken from its slumber that we had or what we're having right now by the early part. And I'm still thinking about September the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, and even through the 7th or the 8th, we could have some big time activity out here in the deep tropics. Now, what does the Canadian model show? Because the GFS was not really showing a whole lot, but the Canadian model shows something pretty different and pretty awkward at the same time. So as we go forward here, again, same level of the atmosphere, 5,000 feet above the surface. And of course, you're looking at your cyclonic relative vorticity, how much spin. And of course, your black lines indicate the pressure or basically the geopotential height in decameters. And then as we go forward, look at what goes on down here. Yeah, in 5 days. Yes, 5 days from now, we have a lot of convergence down here in the intertropical convergence zone in the main development region. And guess what? Maybe 2 systems coming off of this, according to our Canadian model. Actually, maybe 2 for a brief bit, and then just kind of consolidates into 1 system. And this would be something to really have to watch closely. It's not just the GEM model or the Canadian model showing this. We're also looking at this from the icon model, indicating something very similar. Again, nothing in the next couple 2 or 3 days, maybe 4 days, but look at this. In 5 days, we do have development out here. We don't have the vorticity. This is actually the surface wind in knots and mean sea level pressure at the surface. So you can see a ridge here and a ridge here. And this is kind of where your ridge should kind of be this time of the year. So fairly optimal environment here for this wave coming off of Africa right now to eventually get some attention on our models. And then maybe something closer into the Gulf of Mexico towards a 5 to 7 day period. So again, we can't take our eyes off the Gulf, but we really got to watch what goes on with this guy down here, because if this moves towards the west and it moves into some very high upper ocean heat content, then we could be dealing with something more serious than just a tropical depression or storm. Now, I did forget to show you all on how consistent has the Canadian been at showing this area of development. We go at previous model runs, we can see this is only 12-hour increments. So the 12Z from this morning shows, yep, there's a system out there with the vorticity plot. We go another run back, it's still there and still there. Literally, this is a day worth of model runs. So this is the last 3 runs showing us maybe some development out here. So I just went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 model runs at showing something out there in the Caribbean, according to the CMC model. Now, what about the icon really quickly? Again, on our consistency standpoint here, we can see this is the 0Z run from last night. Again, showing our area of tropical development here. And if, as we go forward in time, or actually as we go another model run back, still something there. And if we go to right now, we can see it's still being indicated there. So this is why we're really going to have to watch this one. This is a bit of a stronger signal than what we have had. There's no fake illustrations here that the models are trying to pick up on. I think we're getting somewhere, maybe with some development around the 31st of August through the 2nd of September. Yeah, about as we turn our calendar month. Which, by the way, we're still 180 hours, a little more than that, about 8 or 9 days away until the 1st of September. So a lot can change between now and September 1st, in other words. And that's kind of what the icon model is trying to tell us. So now, as far as our MJO goes, you can see right now, I don't rarely show this in my videos at all, and there's many reasons behind that, because it doesn't impress me very much. But what really comes is going to be impressive, all right? The orange areas might give you an idea that, oh, we're not going to get tropical cyclone development, all right? I want you all to do me a favor. Go to Eric's Webb's Twitter, or X in this case, after the video. Please wait until after the video. I'll have a link in the description leading to that post. He goes into very deep detail on where the MJO needs to be for the best chances of development in the Atlantic. And quite frankly, what you're about to see here is going to be pretty stunning. So let's go forward in time here, all the way into, say, Monday or Sunday, August the 25th. You can see not much of a signal of the MJO, but look what happens as we go into the next 10 days, and this has been consistent on our GFS model. This is the velocity potential anomaly. So green areas are upward motion, so we're seeing divergence. The air is moving away from a central point at the upper levels of the atmosphere. And then the orange areas, the air is converging in the upper levels and it sinks because air has to go somewhere. And this is why you get suppression usually in the Eastern Pacific, but things are delayed. Things are not perfectly aligned here versus our VPA, velocity potential anomaly. So as we go forward, yeah, look how anomalous this gets. This gets very amplified signal. And when it's over India and over, say, the maritime continent, usually in phases 3, 4, and 5, there's big trouble ahead, potentially over the Atlantic. So a very intense, coherent conical signal here of our MJO that really develops here by the first full week of September, right in time of the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season, which occurs on September the 10th. You could even see it here on the total precipitable water normalized anomaly forecast. Again, the greener areas indicate a lot of moisture, more than usual, and then the browner colors indicate drier air. And we can see as we go forward in time, this wave coming off of Africa helps to get the whole atmosphere ready to go for our next tropical wave and maybe our next hurricane as it develops. And then look at this. Once we go towards the next 10 days, look at all this. This is all above average out here in the main development region, even coming off of Africa. Maybe some record numbers out of this, and especially our wave down here in the Caribbean. That's a very moist environment, even to the north, more moist than usual, not much shear to work with. And I'm telling you folks, this could be generous given the conditions that we could be headed into for the first few days of September. Even the wind shear is going to be lighter than it has been in recent days, and that's because, well, our pattern is changing, and we can see not much shear out here in the main development region. In fact, some areas here, shear of less than 2 knots in some areas. And as we go forward in time here, the next 3 days, 5 days, look at the shear really is lighter, and it's anticyclonically when we get shear out of the east, and then it kind of curves out like this. You can get a lot of lighter shear over these tropical waves, and these systems could really develop in a hurry. And it still continues to be that way, even in the main development region. So, yeah, we cannot take our eyes off of the MDR in the Caribbean and the southwestern Atlantic over the next couple of weeks. With that being said, the Global Tropics Hazardous Outlook from the Climate Prediction Center does highlight a very high chance, the highest I have ever seen it in a while, through the 3rd. Again, we're talking about the 1st through the 3rd here, where we get tropical development in this area. And I'm telling you, the CFS is over here with this system. We got the CMC over here. The CMC over here. We got the icon and the GFS trying to indicate something in the 60% area. And then down the road into even the 10th, the peak of hurricane season, we have a 40% chance, maybe even a 60% chance even embedded within this 40%, the solid red color. So over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're looking at some big time activity signals coming on from our global models and our ensembles as well. So now that we looked at our deterministic forecasts, what about those ensembles that we're getting here from the European and the GEFS, the global ensemble or the global ensemble forecasting system? So we can see here, of course, from the EPS ensemble prediction system, all 51 members, not all of them here indicating a major hurricane, but there are some intense models out there, folks. We got a couple here indicating a major hurricane. In this one, maybe a Cat 5 hurricane on this one. But there's also other tracks going further to the west that do indicate maybe a Category 3 or 4 hurricane. And then, of course, you got these other models over here indicating a tropical storm. There is a big, big signal, folks, on the European ensemble prediction system indicating there is going to be the potential for tropical development here in the next 10 or so days, maybe even sooner, based on our MJO that we just looked at, and then maybe more coming off of Africa beyond this wave that we are watching closely for. But also, this is the actual latest run. I wanted to do some comparison. Still a very coherent signal on the European ensemble showing some big time development. Maybe our next hurricane, if not a major hurricane, perhaps for the first week of September. But that's not it. Even the GEFS ensemble, which is the global ensemble forecasting system, still indicating that big signal that we just looked at on the European model. So there is some agreement here in the next, say, 10 days. Now, this goes out to 384 hours out, but I want to make it clear This is going to happen within at least the next 10 to 12 days, with some of these tracks indicating, again, purples and pinks here indicating Cat 4, Cat 5 intensity perhaps, and you can see some beige colors indicating a major hurricane. So yeah, we cannot take our focus off of this signal. But look at off of Africa here. There's even a more coherent signal indicating more tropical development with each wave coming off of Africa. And that's why we are here making these videos as often as we can, because there's big changes already coming on these models. So now, even so, there are signals from our ensembles indicating tropical development near the Caribbean and perhaps eventually maybe near the Bahamas. The National Hurricane Center, fortunately, is not confident enough to highlight any areas. So right now, for the next week, we could all kind of rest in peace and rest assured there's not going to be any surprises out there in the Caribbean, in the main development region, or in the Gulf of Mexico over the next 7 days. But I'm warning you, beyond 7 days, though, we're really going to have to watch. There could be a lot of activity picking up pretty quickly. And this really lines up with climatology, with the huge ramp up in the Atlantic activity with the tropics. We can see sinking motion over the next 15 days. That does not mean we won't see any development. It means it's going to be suppressed. We're going to see limited numbers. We're going to have the hurricane season more under control. But I'm telling you folks, by the time we go into the middle to the end of September, all this green here, all this upward motion, the tropics, we're going to see more out of control number of named storms perhaps, and maybe more landfalls. We'll have to see about that. That is pretty far out, but already indicating something in the Atlantic as early as the 10th, the 8th of September. And this is about the peak of hurricane season on the 15th, indicating a lot of green, a lot of upward motion, a lot of convergence. And then that even continues well into October. So a backloaded season is certainly in the game of possibility here. Put that on top of very high upper ocean heat content in the Caribbean. Wow, wow, wow. Take a look at this. This is very, very concerning. All these dark red colors indicate extreme levels of upper ocean heat content. In fact, the highest it has ever been in the last, say, 5 or 6 years. All these dark red colors indicate greater than 175 units of upper ocean heat content. And then look at this, over the Gulf of Mexico, even extreme. So hopefully anything that comes off of Africa could do this and move out to sea, because if it goes further west into the Caribbean and then into the Gulf where a lot of us live, things could get out of control very quickly. Remember Hurricane Ian, Hurricane Laura, as well as Michael. Some of these very intense Hurricane Katrina took full advantage with this upper ocean heat content out here in late August, early September, and it's only going to get warmer. The peak of this upper ocean heat content is not until about the 15th of September, and that's why we see the peak of the season coming around the 10th or the 15th of September. So these numbers are going to get only more hotter and worse beyond this time frame. We have another 3 or 4 weeks before the peak of that comes. So more closely in detail here, these darker red colors now over 200. So the graph here, or the legend, gets upgraded once we zoom in, and so we can see these darker red colors off the charts. In fact, there's one little area here. I mean, I need to use my yellow pen, Epic pen. And so these the yellow area that I circled in has upper ocean heat content greater than 240 units. That is exceptional. So imagining if we get one of these tropical waves that goes further west, like some of the ensemble members are showing, and I'm telling you, if we get any tropical wave that moves over this area under a very favorable environment, things could go really bad very quickly. And it doesn't help when you have well above average sea surface temperatures. I mean, golly word, this is ridiculous. I mean, we have water temperatures up here that are 2 to 4 degrees above average, and then we have sea surface temperatures over here in the main development region that are around 2 degrees Celsius. So definitely very warm out there in the main development region, and these are where our waves are coming from. And then in the Gulf of Mexico, also very warm. But also take note, the North Atlantic, far northern Atlantic, running below average, which means the favorability is more amplified further south. And on top of that, look at our sea surface temperatures, ready to go, ready to roll. It's just a matter of time when the atmosphere will cooperate, and when it does, you better hope it doesn't, because we could have a barrage of activity by the time we get into September. But anyways, that is going to sum it up for today's detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Saturday, August the 24th, 2024. If this video was very helpful with the awesome information that I'm able to provide you all, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hit the like button and share this video with your family and friends on social media. As always, I will be back with you on Monday. I will not have any updates out tomorrow because I'm going to a birthday party tomorrow with to my cousin's birthday party down in Ripon, and I will be going to work tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. So I will not be inside the office at all for any updates unless something really significantly, if we had like a Cat 5 tomorrow, then there would be a difference on that, but I'm not seeing any development, of course, in the next 7 days. So have a great rest of your Sunday or a great rest of your Saturday into your Sunday. I'll talk with you more on Monday.